Artificial intelligence. It's probably going to take over the world sooner or later. And its general consensus has been pretty split amongst people. Some people welcome it with open arms, saying that with the help of artificial intelligence, we're going to be able to bring technology and art and everything like that one step forward as a tool that is used. And then there are other people who are looking at it more as like a doomsday cult thing and thinking robots are going to take over the world. And at this point in time, in my opinion, it is kind of difficult to say which one it is, because it really does depend on how we humans end up using artificial intelligence. But today, we're going to be looking at a story of the use of AI that has fallen in definitely more of the negative person. So we have a Japan Today article here, the title being Award-Winning Authors AI Use Revelation Roils Japan's Literacy World. Comments by a Japanese author who revealed she used generative AI to help write the novel for which she won Japan's most prestigious book award have roiled the country's literary industry. I love how they use the word roiled. Like, yeah, we're talking about literacy. We're gonna flip open the fucking thesaurus today, boys. While some welcome the use of AI as a new writing tool, those managing Japan's book contest question how the technology is influencing authors' creativity, although most agree it is a long way from producing novels of superior quality on its own. And I agree with that. If you go onto ChatGPT or any kind of AI thing and type in something like, hey, write me a book, I think day in and day out, it has gotten a lot better at, you know, kind of creative writing or anything like that, but it is still a long way away from winning a prestigious book award or, you know, getting you on bookshelves or anything like that. It is good though, however, as a tool to like help you maybe come up with new ideas, which your human brain can then expand upon with your, you know, creative literacy writing. But I don't think it is at the point now where it is completely replacing authors. The novel by 33-year-old Die Kudan, titled Tokyo to Dojo to Sympathy Tokyo Tower, is set in the Japanese capital in the not so distant future when generative AI has become ubiquitous and took the 170th Akutagawa Prize for up-and-coming authors in January. I do kind of think it is a little bit hilariously ironic that the story that this author used AI for a little bit of help is also talking about AI in the story. Like, did the AI come up with that? Is this AI that she used self-aware or what? But what is surprising, however, is the mention of what award this author won. It's the Akutagawa Prize, which for those of you who don't know, the Akutagawa Sho, or the Akutagawa Prize in Japan, is one of the, if not the most prestigious book award in Japan. It's like winning the Pulitzer Prize. Named after Akutagawa Ryunosuke, who is considered one of the greatest authors to ever live in Japan. Winning the Akutagawa Prize as an author pretty much means you've made it. It is extremely prestigious, and the fact that this new prestigious award for this year was won by someone who potentially didn't even write their own story, yeah, I can see why literary fans are roiled up. The commotion surrounding Kudan's novel comes after she said at a press conference upon claiming the prize that around 5% of the book's text was taken directly from generative AI. Now, here's my question. Why the fuck would you admit that at a press conference? Why would you admit that? Did you think that the you know, judges were going to be like cool with that revelation, to know that, oh yeah, 5% of this book that you think came from my genius brain, nope, actually came from my computer, my little friend called GPT. I don't know, maybe she just like wanted to get it off her chest, maybe she's too honest of herself, maybe she thought that it would add a whole new layer to the message behind the book. I have no idea why, but in my head, I'm just thinking like, you should have kept that in the draft, sis. You didn't have to say that to people. Like, you could have just not said anything about ChatGPT or any kind of AI writing tool, and you probably would have never been found out. Shuichi Yoshida, a novelist who sits on the prizes selection panel, said that AI hardly came up in discussions during the evaluation process, adding that it may have been perceived as just another character in the story. So not even like experienced authors and novelists, the judges for this prize, even questioned AI being involved with this story. So again, why would you admit that? Why would you willingly cheat on a test for then to go up to the teacher afterwards and said, here's my test, by the way, I copied 5% of the answers of the guy next to me. But Kudan's comments about using AI have stirred debate, with arguments coming from both sides on social media. The story has also made international headlines being reported by CNN and other networks. Generative AI is is capable of generating text, images, and other content via machine learning, often under the direction of commands input by a user. The technology enables people to generate literary and artistic works at the push of a button without specialized knowledge in a given field. And I think this is where people are starting to like really question the ethical uses of AI and trying to pass it off as your own work. This is the equivalent to like writing a paper in university and having to use Wikipedia as one of your sources because it's like not a proper source to use, which, look, as someone who used to do that at college, I never understood the reasoning behind it, but I just went with it because that was the rule and I wanted to pass because I didn't want to be in student debts without a degree. But at the same time, I think AI is really important and I think can be a very useful tool to those who already have the background knowledge of whatever you are getting the AI to help you out with. It is more of a tool than something that is going to completely replace whatever it is you're trying to do, especially in an artistic medium. As the number of people using generative AI grows rapidly, concerns abound that it could be used to disseminate false information or infringe on intellectual property rights, and discussions are underway to establish rules for its use. See, when it comes to the whole like intellectual property rights of like AI, it is kind of difficult to like really pinpoint that. Like the waters start to get really muddy when you try and trace back, all right, who actually owns this idea? Like did the AI come up with it from its AI, neuron synapses, or did it take reference or a little bit too much reference from something that potentially already exists? Like, is the idea that the AI created owned by the AI or the AI company? Or is it owned by whoever decided to put those inputs into the tool to grab it first? There is a scene in Kudan's book where AI built a fictional technology reminiscent of the modern-day ChatGPT developed by US-based OpenAI answers the protagonist's questions. Kudan explained later in an interview that she only employed AI-generated text in the responses given by AI built in the story. Okay. Now I'm starting to be more on the author's side. I think, again, it is completely dependent on the hands of the user. You got to blame the builder and not the tools. And I think in this case, the builder, aka the author, has used the tools in a pretty cool way, if you ask me. Really making sure that the AI system in the context of the story gives out answers that is very, very similar, if not one for one, like how it would be like in real life, I think is a pretty cool literary way of storytelling. Like, I think it is an interesting twist on something. Like, now that you know this information and you read this book, and mind you, I haven't read this book. I haven't even heard about it until I, read this article with you guys. I think now if I read the book and knowing this information, I think it's going to be really interesting and cool. And I think it's also used in a way that can really get you to like put some kind of realistic intent into the perspective of the characters or the world. And I think can be used in a really interesting story building tool now that we know that the AI in the story is actually based on what real AI would say to particular questions. While I borrowed from AI in parts, I made the appropriate modifications to the story so as not to disrupt the text flow, she said. When you read it back, the applicable text barely makes up a whole page, and I think my comments were overblown. And yeah, now that we know the full story, as long as she's telling the truth, I kind of agree with her here. One veteran editor said that while there was no issue with Kudan's work itself, the revelations of AI use would impact rules for new submissions going forward. Similarly to adding citations, I think we would like to be informed in advance, the editor said. Realistically, it is hard to discern if AI was used during the writing process, and some readers may feel cheated if they find out after the fact. I don't know, man, like informing them in advance, having lived in Japan, being half Japanese, surrounding myself with Japanese people all the goddamn time for work and life and stuff like that, I have a feeling, right, and I don't know these people personally, but I have a feeling that these kinds of people, if you let them know in advance, being like, hey, by the way, this section of my book is actually AI generated. I used AI. I feel like, as much as they're like, oh, just let us know in advance and you'll be all right, I don't know, man. I get the feeling that they'll just drop this book from the runnings on the spot. It's just something in my brain is just telling me that they're probably going to be like that. I think they're saying this now to like kind of, tell people to be like, hey, don't use AI. But now that you've given them this permission, I feel like a lot of authors and up and coming authors are going to take this the wrong way and go, oh, okay, well, as long as I let you in advance that 30% of my book was written in AI, like it'd be cool, right? Like, no, I don't think so. I think it's literally a case by case basis. And I think they're only cool with this now because they don't want to seem like the bad guys and take away this author's prize from her, especially, again, one of the most prestigious writing prizes in Japanese literacy. Changes are already afoot in science fiction, where AI is frequently subject matter taken up by the genre. The Hoshi Shinichi Award, which is another very prestigious writing award, for sci-fi literature has set out detailed requirements for the use of AI-generated content in submissions, including prohibiting its inclusion as is without significant additions or revisions to the generated text, as well as keeping record of the process, among other rules. However, literary critic Akira Okawada said that many authors are already using AI to help them come up with ideas for themes or writing structures, adding that Kudan's comments about how she was made free use of generative AI when writing seems to reinforce the argument. And yeah, I totally agree with this critic. I think it's the case of, this is one case where an author who won a prestigious prize decided to spill the beans and tell everybody that she used AI to help her write this thing. I think a lot of these people are assuming like she's the first author ever to do this. No, I'm sure there's a ton of authors and a ton of like people who are not authors who have been using ChatGPT and other AI to like help them as a tool rather than as a replacement for whatever it is that they're trying to achieve. I mean, I for one now don't really Google stuff up anymore. I just go into ChatGPT and type in whatever I was going to type into Google to get my answers, because 99% of the time, ChatGPT can tell me fucking immediately exactly what I want to know and exactly what I wanted to see without me having to scroll through like, all right, which one of these Google pages is going to give me the right answer. But I understand that in the world of creative writing, this may come as a little bit of a criticism or a little bit of a contextual subject, because it is creative writing. And at the end of the day, is AI being creative, or is it just helping you to be creative? Again, totally depends on how you use it. I think in this case, the author used it in the correct way, where she used it as more of an aid to really enhance the storytelling, especially considering the fact that in her story, she has an AI character. So to make it more realistic, to make it more seamless and fit in with whatever world is presented in this particular story, I think this was a good move and an interesting move as well. It really does like kind of start this whole argument of like, well, okay, if it's already happening in the real world, then what does that say about this future world that is being presented in the story? It gives an extra layer of dynamic to the story and gives an extra layer of criticism or breaking down of a story for literary critics, and I think literary critics really dig that. While we still cannot create superior stories simply by using AI-generated text, we should discuss whether it will eventually supersede writers' creativity. I think that conversation should be kept for when it actually does happen, because who knows? It may not ever happen. It might happen next week. We don't freaking know. The growth of AI has been so goddamn fast and so goddamn just unrealistically like ridiculous that we don't know what this future is going to hold, and we can only really just like wait or try and use this AI in a way that it won't just spiral out of control. I think we need to be using it very, very responsibly and in a way that won't take away from the true creative human nature that we're all born with. Okawada added that exploring ethical complexities is one aspect of creative writing that AI still has difficulty with. Children learn the subtleties of human nature as they grow, but it is difficult for AI to do so and create work that addresses ethical themes in depth. I totally agree. Kudan's novel examines the relationship between humans and language and its attempts to look beyond existing ethical perspectives. She suggests that she herself is content with coexisting with AI. Even if AI were to imitate humans and write superior text, I would still want to write myself. That desire will never cease. Based on the author. Look, at the end of the day, this is a very, deep, ethically, included, and as of right now, nothing that is clearly black and white of this whole question of what is the future of AI going to look like, and what is our future going to look like as humanity as a result of this AI growing. This has been talked about by everybody right now with every new piece of technology that comes out, with every new update to the way that AI works and how it is used in modern society. I think this question is just going to keep on stirring until we do finally reach a point where, again, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, either AI is just there to help us with whatever we need to do and pushes humanity forward, or it truly is like a doomsday cult and the robot overlords take over. As of right now, we're kind of free to use AI in the way that we seem fit. We are still the masters right now, and the AI are the servants. As of right now, I think, using AI, I think using things like ChatGPT and AI, there is inherently nothing wrong with it, as long as you use it responsibly and in an ethical way. But again, I'm throwing around words like use it responsibly, use it in an ethical way. Like there's a black and white answer to that as well, because what is ethical, what is responsible is also a subjective matter. And, you're open to discuss in the comments below about what that may or may not be. But in the case with this author, congrats to her winning the story. And, now reading this article, I want to read this book. I want to see what, this whole like AI generated stuff looks like. And it genuinely does just seem like a really interesting novel that I'm down to check out. So if anything, I think her mentioning this whole like using AI thing is kind of almost in a weird way a publicity stunt to get people to talk about her book even more. And look what's happened. Tons of articles, including CNN now, are talking about this book. Free publicity. And I think that's a kind of a smart move. But yeah, I know there was a lot of like, talking points in this video and a lot to discuss. So I'd be happy to hear your thoughts and opinions about anything I said down in the comments below. And hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to smack my face right here, subscribe to the channel. Let's keep making big channel number go bigger. Over here next to my head, there's a couple more videos you can check out. If you enjoyed this one, links to my social media, as well as my Patreon to support me directly, and Nonsense, my clothing line. We make sick clothes. Check it out, nonsense.jp, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.